You're listening to Therapy for Your Money, a podcast about all things money and finance for therapy practice owners. If you want to feel confident and in control of your financial life, then you've come to the right spot. I'm your host, Julie Harris. I'm an accountant and the owner of Green Oak Accounting. My firm specializes in working with private practices across the U.S., and my team and I have worked with hundreds of private practice owners. I'm on a mission to share all the best practices I've learned along the way because I want you to have a profitable private practice. Before we get started, I want to invite you to a free webinar I'm hosting on December 18th at 1 p.m. That's all about implementing Profit First in a group practice. If you're thinking about implementing Profit First, if you've been kind of implementing Profit First, or if you're just interested in learning about it, I invite you to join me. We will talk all about the basics of implementation. We'll talk about the current allocations, target allocations. We'll run through an instant assessment example, and we'll talk all about implementing Profit First in your group practice and how to troubleshoot it when things aren't going quite right. We'll also have time for a Q&A session. So if you would like to join me, go to therapyforyourmoney.com/profitfirst to register for this free webinar on December 18th. All right. Hi, everyone. Today we are talking about systems and automation with Kasey Compton. In my book, Kasey is the systems queen for private practice. Kasey, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Julie. I want to wave, but then I remember I'm on a podcast and no one can see.
Oh yeah. Well, Kasey's waving at you, everyone.
Yeah.
Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and your systems journey?
Yeah. So I was telling Julie before the podcast is that there really wasn't a name that I named myself. I somehow acquired it along the way, and that's fine because I love systems. And over the course of the last 5 years, starting a new practice, growing the practice, scaling the practice, I learned a lot of lessons, a lot of mistakes, a lot of those aha moments, like, oh my gosh, why didn't I know this? Why didn't I do this before? Why am I just realizing this? A lot of the moments where I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go bankrupt, like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm doing, like all of those moments. And what I've realized throughout growing this practice, and even just with the consulting business now, where I started that after, and I had already learned all those hard lessons in my group practice, I feel like the consulting business has been so much easier because I learned from my own mistakes. But I think what has happened for me in this journey is that I've really come to love systems even more than I already did naturally. They have just kind of been my I don't know how to explain it. It's like they almost just give me confidence now because I know that the business is going to run based on the systems that I've created, and I don't have to worry about shoot from the hip decisions and those emotional decisions that you have to make sometimes. And it's just given me a lot of confidence, and I love that.
Awesome. And I've heard you say a couple of times that one of the main goals in private practice has to be making money. And I think that's really good to hear because obviously there's clinical goals, right? I want to acknowledge that, like, when someone goes into private practice, there's a clinical goal, but there has to be a goal to make money, or else what are we all doing here, right? If you can't live from your business, what is the point? So did you have an aha moment around that at some point?
Yes. I was just on a Q&A 2 hours ago with Maureen's membership, and one of the people were talking about that their goal is to help people, and I didn't want to be like, no, it's not, but I was being really nice. But then afterwards, I was like, look, obviously this is my opinion. You can have your own opinion. We all should have our own opinion. But I believe that the goal of your business is always profitability. But the purpose of your business is yours. It's to help people. It's to impact the community, to provide access to mental, that's the purpose. And I think sometimes people get those two things confused. And that's where we start to lose our way when we're making decisions and we're working on our practice, is we forget the goal. And if we don't know what the goal is, then we can't be working towards it. My aha moment, which I think I've always known that, but I was somehow, somewhere, someone had referred a book to me called The Goal, and I bought it. It's huge, like massive book. And I was actually going to New Jersey to have a conference, like a workshop at Mike McAllitz's office. And I bought the book and I started reading it on the plane. And my husband was sitting beside of me. And as I was reading it, I was like hitting him. I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And I said, Mike has to have read this book because I can just hear so much of that influence. It's an old book.
Oh, interesting. Who is it by? Do you know?
Eli Goldratt.
Okay.
He's no longer alive. But man, this book is unreal. And I was getting so excited. I know everyone around me on the plane thought I was a Fruit Loop. But whenever I got to Mike's workshop and we got to talking about profitability and the goal, he was like, that's one of my favorite authors. And I was like, I knew it. I knew it. And that was kind of like my aha moment, you know, like if all these people out here that are so successful get it, then it's probably pretty accurate.
And so has that been one of the many reasons that you implement systems? Because you don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. Like you have a decision tree or a plan for most decisions. Is that part of getting to profit?
Yes, absolutely. So you know, early on in the business, I was just doing everything myself, and I knew that there had to be a better way, but I just didn't quite know what that was. And somebody told me, you know, Kasey, you really just have to duplicate yourself. And I thought, okay, you know, what does that actually mean? And then at that time, there weren't all these groups out there. You know, there wasn't even podcasts. I had no idea that any of this stuff even existed. And so systems kind of became my way of duplicating myself. I took the process that I was using for a certain thing and I would work with it until I could get it, you know, working on its own. And I just knew that my capacity was limited, trying to do everything myself. And so in order to have a practice that would run without me, systems had to be the answer. And it turns out I was right. And I think they are.
So what do you use mostly to document your systems? Is there one place where that lives, or is there multiple?
Everyone asks me this all the time. I haven't found like this amazing magical thing. Most of the time for us, systems are something that are ever changing. We just did a deep dive back in, I don't even know what month this is, 1st of September we started it, and it's a 30-day deep dive, and people ask that question. And for us, even doing this for so long, they change always. And so we have a folder in Google Drive, and it's kind of like a standard operating procedures, okay, but it's more interactive, and we just use it that way. We have it built out. We have like the table of contents, so we have each department, and then the systems within that department, and the processes are the steps. And so we're always changing it. If we change something, we change it on the SOPs. And I've played around with some tools like Process Street and Sweet Processes, but I just don't want to do the work to put everything in there when I know I'm going to have to keep changing it.
Got it. Okay. So keeping it simple has worked better than like putting it somewhere. So do you find that systems typically will scale with the business, or do they need to be kind of redone, or does everything change at certain milestones in the business?
Good question. So I'm a big believer of creating systems that you can grow into rather than grow out of. So we're always looking, you know, we never create a system for something if when it doubles, it doesn't work. So we're always trying to create systems almost like that they're bigger than us. But that doesn't mean they don't have to be adapted. You know, like we're always finding ways to improve things and to make things more automated as technology increases, and we have all of these things like Zaps and all these cool automation tools. We're always changing those, but normally we try to build something that we can grow into.
Okay, so when you're thinking up a system, you're thinking of where are we going to be in 6 or 12 months versus what do we need today? Okay.
Yeah. It's always what's the goal? What are we trying to do here? And if if we know what the goal is and we can reverse engineer the process, it's very rare that we create a system that we have to totally scrap and start over.
Got it. Okay. So I often talk about the 4 key financial systems in a practice, and that is billing, payroll, bookkeeping, and tax. And so what kind of systems have you built around automating those financial processes for your practice?
For us, the biggest is our billing process.
Sure.
And that is always going to be determined by your EHR. So I say this a lot. Most of the time, you're going to always build your systems around your EHR. That's kind of like the hub, it's something you can't really change.
Right.
And it's involved in every single system in the business. So you have to build around that. Billing systems around the EHR have been really important. I remember there was a time where we had a big billing disaster, and we were like, our AR was over $300,000. It was ridiculous.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was bad. And that was kind of like the dashboard moment that said, hey, this has got to stop. We've got to do something now, or this is not going to improve. So when I found a billing manager that thought in systems like me, and I was able to actually find someone that did that, we were able to go in there, and her AR at this moment, from 60 to 90 days, is 1.72% of the, it's like a couple $1,000s.
Okay. So she's really turned that around.
Yeah. And so what we had to do there was, we're limited by the EHR, but then we had to look at what the strengths are of the people that we had on the billing team. And we had to really realign a lot of the tasks that they were doing. We had people doing things that they really sucked at, and then not doing things that they were really good at. So we had to just change all that. So once we changed all that and we had accountability in place, much better. And then from that, the payroll system is always people's biggest nightmare. I can't even tell you how many people I consult with on their payroll system. And what we have found that works the best there is, we love Google Drive. So we use Google Sheets and just a bunch of formulas pretty much. And so everything just kind of talks to one another, and it's very automated. I can do payroll for around 80 employees, in less than an hour.
That is phenomenal. That is not very much time at all. Okay.
No. And it's all because of systems. And if it wasn't for that, I've done it the hard way, and it would take me 3 days. So, and then the bookkeeping, that's done. I outsource that. So I don't even look at that.
You don't touch it. Okay.
I don't even want to know. I just want to know that my QuickBooks is reconciled, and that's it.
Okay. And hopefully the tax you're also not touching, right? You don't.
Not touch that either.
Okay,
no.
good.
That's
good,
like
good,
way over my head, way over there.
All right, good. And so I've heard you mention a dashboard. So billing talks to your dashboard, and then what else do you look at there from a financial perspective?
Yeah, we have a company-wide or practice-wide dashboard that hits all of the 5 core systems or departments within a practice. And so they all talk to one another, and it's really hard to explain. So I'm just trying to think of a way to do it that won't confuse people. Our EHR is so limited in what it can do and the reports that it can run in regards to payroll. We actually have to use a Google Sheet as a timesheet for our staff. And I'm actually glad that we do that, because it's allowed us that timesheet that our therapists maintain throughout the whole year is kind of the thing that talks to every other dashboard that talks to us about payroll. It tells us utilization. It tells us availability. That one document that we created and then embedded formulas really informs the marketing system, the hiring system, the client care system, and the office management system.
Okay, so the timesheets will tell marketing when you have availability. Is that what I'm hearing? Like when there's open capacity? Okay,
yep.
Very neat. Got it. So everyone has their own timesheet in Google Drive, and that feeds everything else.
Yep.
All right. Very neat. What other like non-financial systems do you see on your dashboard?
So we are tracking anything that's non-financial. We have a client care. So like the practice-wide dashboard is just, it has multiple tabs, sheets at the bottom. And so we have it broken down by department. And so we have all 5 departments, and really it all stems from financial. If you don't have a good grasp on your finances and where you stand there, it's hard to make decisions about how to market and who to target. And we just did this a couple days ago. It was a perfect example of not communicating well. We had our team that, I don't know what they were doing, but they weren't communicating. And as I was down there just being nosy and observing, I was listening to the client care coordinator, and she was looking at her dashboard, and it has all of the client lists on it for all the therapists. It tells their productivity percentage and their utilization. It also has the number of openings. And, you know, as far as I knew, we were really pushing for a big marketing campaign to draw in new clients. And as I was watching her, I realized that we had like over 170 on a waiting list.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, so I thought, wait a minute, why are we doing all these other things? Why are we buying Halloween marketing materials, and why are we doing all these things when the focus right now really needs to be on hiring, because obviously we don't have enough providers. And so her dashboard is really cool because it has all of our therapists, it has all of their openings, it has their entire client list, and it also has their utilization percentage. So for example, if their column says that they have 5 openings, but they have 56 clients on their list, and their utilization percentage is 25%, they're not getting any new clients because they have plenty, they're just not seeing them. And so all those things are kind of help us make more informed decisions. And I think sometimes what people don't realize is that all of those systems, they all interlock. You know, they all, you got to get them talking to one another because they all impact each other equally.
That's really, really interesting. So you might use that information to have a conversation for your clinical director to have a conversation with the clinician then? Okay, got
Mm-hmm.
it. Instead of just piling on new clients.
Yep. Yep.
That's really interesting. And so you use those dashboards to make financial decisions all the time, it sounds like, right? If you're going to market, like what other kind of decisions do you make with them?
Yeah. Like I said earlier, hiring, how we're going to target our audience. So we noticed that crazy, I mean, I guess I'm not really surprised, but we track all of the different types of social media posts that we're making, and we see what people are reacting to and responding to. And so the majority of people that are calling in right now are looking for couples counseling. That tells me people are struggling in their marriages and their relationships. And people are reacting most to, we posted something about suicide rates and how it correlated with unemployment. People went like, I mean, that was getting shared like crazy. And so we know, we pick up on these things on these dashboards that tell us what our audience wants to see, and then we can create more of that content. It also tells us, okay, really, you know, our human resources director needs to be finding a couples therapist. It tells us what specializations we need to be looking for when we're hiring. It tells us what locations we need to be looking at when we're considering opening new offices. It tells us what therapist may need some clinical support because they're struggling with retention. It really just, I don't know what we would do with that. I don't know what people do without some form of a dashboard.
Well, so do you ever just go make a decision based on your gut feeling, or just the data, right? The data has all the answers. Casey's nodding her head. Okay. So the data will give you the answer.
I'll say this, that's not true. That's a little bit of a lie. If it is a decision, anything that can be proven with numbers, I listen to. The only things that I ever listen to my gut, is when it comes to people. So like if so-and-so is acting really strange and something's going on and I don't know what's wrong, like I will listen to my gut there. but not when it comes to business. When it comes to, I'm not going to say, well, my gut tells me I need to open an office in Louisville. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm a big believer from a therapeutic side in cognitive behavioral therapy. And I believe that, we feel a certain way because we think a certain way. And so our gut is a feeling, and that feeling is not going to exist unless you're producing thoughts that are going to trigger that feeling. So I don't know how I feel about gut instincts for business.
For business, yeah.
Yeah, for life, of course.
Of course, and the relationship, but in business, you look at the numbers.
Yeah.
So how do you evaluate when it's time to open a new location? How do you think through that decision?
Well, it starts with the numbers. Like, what does our profitability look like? What is our net profit margin right now? If we're struggling with profit margins, I'm pretty conservative when it comes to decisions with financial decisions in the business. So I'm always looking at that. If we're not profitable, then all of my attention and focus is going to go towards how are we going to get profitable? Why are we not profitable, and what can I do to fix that? Because I'm not here every day just because I love it. Like, I have to make money. So when it comes to opening a new location, I have a really good idea on what it cost the startup a new office, because we've opened so many in the past. So I look at, when do we have that money? If we don't, are we going to have to use debt to leverage that? And if we are going to have to use debt to leverage that, then how quickly am I going to get a return? How hard is it for me to find employees for that location? That's the kicker for me. If I had employees in every county in the state, I would open an office in every county in the state. In the mental health world, it's cheap to open an office. That's why there's so many group practices. It doesn't cost you a lot. You don't have any equipment. You have a couch, and a chair. So the startup costs are really low. So that just means my return on investment is really quick and usually pretty good. So I look at those things.
Okay. And so, like, you have a number for how much it takes you to open up a new office. Do you have kind of a formula depending on how many, like, if it's a 4 office suite, it's going to cost me X dollars per room? Is that kind of how you go, and you have your budget?
Yep. So when I'm looking at potential office space, evaluating how many rooms there are. I don't care, the square footage. I don't even care. I just want to know how many rooms there are. And then I want to know what, I divide that out by, so like if there's 5 rooms and it's $1,000 a month, then, I know what each room costs me. And so then I know how many sessions need to be produced in each room to get that back. And then
even.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay.
Yeah. Very simple math.
It's a great formula. I love it. So if a practice owner is just getting, maybe solo, just getting started, no systems at all, is there an order that do you recommend they start? Is there one system that should come before all others, or do all ships rise at once? How do you look at that?
Yeah, I think the system that's going to come first will vary a little bit because everyone's going to have different situations and different needs. But I think what you have to do first is what's going to generate the most leads. So I know sometimes people want to have all of their ducks in a row before they start, and that's fine. But I like to, I would probably build out a marketing system first, because that's going to be your plan. You would put that in a business plan on how you're going to attract clients. Marketing systems are usually pretty straightforward. So that's, you could knock that out in like a day of planning. And then you just think through the process. So I'm going to have clients. And then once I have clients, then what am I going to need? If it's just you, then you're going to have to bill the claims. So then you're going to want to focus on your billing system. And then if you're going to have to bill the claims, then what's going to be next? You're going to get so many new clients, then you may need to hire someone else. And then you want to think about your human resources, your onboarding system. So I would just look at it. I like common sense business stuff. So whatever is going to happen to you first, build out that system. But usually it's going to be related to sales. How are you going to get money coming in?
Got it. Get some people on the couches.
Yep.
What is your favorite business or money or otherwise book?
Oh, I mean, it's Profit First for sure.
Okay, other than Profit First, I get that answer. Profit First is great, and you implement it in your business, right?
Yes.
Profit First. Okay.
Yep. Oh gosh.
Is there number 2 after Profit First?
It would be the goal, and I will say that book is a book about what's it called? It's like about industry. It's about factories. And so if you're someone that has to have something that is very concrete and you have a hard time connecting like one thing to something totally different, then I would not recommend reading that, because it's going to talk about manufacturing parts.
Oh, really? But it talks about systems in the sense of a manufacturer.
It really talks about how you line up the goal with identifying bottlenecks and how that restricts capacity. It's the theory of constraints is basically what the book is about. And it's written in story form. So it tells kind of a cheesy story, but a good story. It tells a story of a man that has a job, and he has a problem, like we all do. And so he has to figure out how to solve the problem. So I would say that was a pretty impactful book for me. There's so many I love to read. It's hard to pick just one.
Right. That's the truth. All right. Any parting words of advice for clinicians?
Know your numbers.
All right. I can get behind that. That is very good advice. Okay. Kasey, thank you so much for coming on. Let's tell our listeners you have Mindside Partners is your membership group, right? And right now you are opening just for a few short days. We're recording this in October, but there's a way to get a backdoor pass into your membership group, right? Do you want to tell us how to get that?
Yep. So the membership is basically my team here at my own group practice, all packaged up in a nice little bundle. So it's expert led. You have 24/7 access to my whole entire staff about anything. But we keep it closed the majority of the time so that we can continue to grow it and build it. So chances are when this is live, the doors will already be closed. But we have some backdoor passes for people who like games and shenanigans and sneakiness. So if you email hello@consultwithak.com and you put in the subject line backdoor pass, we will give you a secret code where you can access the membership.
All right. Secret code, and we'll put that in the show notes as well, just in case. And then you also, Kasey, have a book coming out next year. Tell us about it.
I do. Well, when I read the book Fix This Next by Mike Michalowicz, I just knew that this was meant for healthcare. I love how he wrote the book, and he wrote it in a very general way for all businesses. But when I read it, I thought that I've got to do this for healthcare. So we worked on it, came up with a plan, and it's called Fix This Next for Healthcare Entrepreneurs. We're in the process of building out a website just for that. You can follow us and we're posting sneak peeks and some of the concepts in the book through social media. So you can follow us on social media for that. But it's really, what I love about it is that it's teaching healthcare entrepreneurs a method for treating their practice just like they would a patient. So all of those insecurities that we have as business owners, because we weren't trained in that, and that's just something that's not natural to us, we break it down and we compare it just like you would diagnosing a patient, setting goals, creating interventions in a plan. And it has all the interventions in the book for every single problem your business could have. So
that's so neat.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read it. So how to diagnose your own business, basically.
Yep.
All right. That's exciting. I'm going to look forward to that. We'll link to that in the show notes too. Oh, Kasey, thanks so much for coming on. It was great to have you.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Hey listeners, do you have an action item for today? Are there any systems that you need to go implement in your business? Head over to therapyforyourmoney.com. We are going to link to the books that Kasey mentioned, and we'll also link to Mindside Partners, and we'll give you the instructions on the backdoor pass as well. Talk to you soon.
The information contained in this podcast represents the host and guest's general opinions and should not be construed as personalized accounting and tax advice. Listeners should consider all facts and circumstances before applying this information and seek appropriate advice from an accountant, financial planner, lawyer, or other professional. Any info provided does not constitute accounting, tax, or legal advice.